Hey everybody, thank you for watching Too Late to Sleep. This week's episode is brought to you by NyQuil, because if I'd have had some last week, I might actually have gotten an episode up. Yeah, sorry about that. This is Too Late to Sleep. Well, the biggest news this week is probably Shane McMahon no-selling a helicopter crash. But for more on that, or rather, how it was reported on Reddit, let's take you to ExplainsYourShitpost with the Shitpost Report.
Hello, I am ExplainsYourShitpost, and thank you for watching this week's edition of the Shitpost Report. First, I would like to talk about the streamables that pervaded our squared circle over the past few months. Until streamables came along, we would always have GIFs of large moves, but they'd be short, and they would only be of a move or two, maybe a small 15-second sequence at most. The GIFs never went on very long. But now with the advent of streamables, we will have entire segments, be they comedy segments or half of a match, posted, filling up /new every single event, be it a Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-view, be it a show from NJPW or even Impact. We will have large segments, often that are available on YouTube, and instead of posting those official YouTubes, and instead of putting them in the discussion thread where people should expect to find them, each and every one of them are getting their own post, spamming up /new, and making it impossible to find anything about something other than the show that presumably everybody is watching. If everybody's watching, then they can just go into the discussion thread to talk about it with everybody else. Every single one of these snowflakes that wants to be the star of their own thread, however, is posting one of these and trying to make it about themselves. So you have people like Fuzzy Wuzzy Moo Moo, who are karma whoring, trying to get every eye on them, make themselves the star of the show. What's wrong with your comment, Karma? Why can't it all be in one place? Well, you gotta be a whore. With the Shane McMahon story, we saw something that will happen with any large news story. Instead of looking to see if a story has been reported, many people will just assume that they are the first to report something and head straight to submit a link. As such, we had over a dozen reports of Shane McMahon's helicopter crashing in the Atlantic Ocean. Some of them were hours after the news actually broke. Why people are assuming that hours after the story happened, they're the first person to report it, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. If it made any sense, these wouldn't be bad people. But they are stupid, stupid people making shitty shitposts. If the news has happened, check and see if it's been reported before you assume you're the first. Because a lot of you are assuming it, and only one of you is right. Finally, I'd like to talk about My Black Son. Now, after the announcement on Monday Night Raw that Jason Jordan was Kurt Angle's illegitimate child, many people had the hilarious idea to take a sound clip from Family Guy of Peter's hypothetical TV show My Black Son and splice it up with WWE footage to make fun of the fact that Kurt Angle in kayfabe now has a black son. I know, it's as hilarious as I make it sound. But somebody posted that on Squared Circle instead of wrestling, and it was deleted. Then somebody else posted it, and it stayed up. And the complaint from the guy who posted it first and had it deleted made it huge on our Squared Circle. Top post, complaining. And there was a bit of a mutiny against the mods because people loved their shitpost so much. Make no mistake, that's what this was. It was a shitpost, and it belonged on our wrestling, and it did not belong very well voted on our wrestling, but it belonged on our wrestling instead. But these people were so upset that it was taken off and this other one wasn't, when they both should have been taken off, but they wanted the first one to get all the recognition, that they wanted to run away and start a new R-squared circle where shitposts could be respected. And let me tell you, please do. Every single one of you that was upset that that first one was deleted, please go. Please. I'm begging you. You are trash. This has been the Shitpost Report with Explains Your Shitpost. Thank you. Back to you, Tramp.
Thank you, Explains Your Shitpost. One story that we didn't get to touch on last week was Alberto Alphatron's suspension from Impact Wrestling. This was following reports that he had possibly beaten Paige. They're investigating it, and it's hard to tell what's going on there. Right now, it's all just rumors, innuendo, a lot of people talking, but there's a lot of smoke and no fire. But at some point, you got to wonder how much smoke there can be before you have to treat it like there's a fire anyway. It's really hard to keep giving him the benefit of the doubt when there's so much going on. And I feel awful for Paige that she's wrapped up in it, that either she's being abused, which is the worst case scenario, or everybody's assuming she's being abused, which is a better scenario, but still not a good one. So it's just a bad situation for everybody involved, no matter what the truth is. I hope whatever it is, we find out if he is doing stuff wrong, that gets handled, and this all just wraps up as quick as possible. I don't like to assume that anything like that is true of people, and I hope for everybody involved's sake that it's just a series of unfortunate events, all just kind of creating a perfect storm, and that nothing's really going on there. So I got blocked by Ryback. So as you may have heard, Ryback made some comments lately that weren't exactly the best. He basically was complaining that women wrestlers aren't doing enough butt shaking and stuff like that after their moves, and that would go a long way. And the problem is there's a little kernel of truth to it, in that if you look at the female wrestlers that are getting the most popular, they do tend to be attractive. And WWE, despite the whole women's revolution and getting rid of the divas term, except in relation to Total Divas, while they are pushing the athletic prowess of the women, they're still hiring very attractive women. They're doing photo shoots, bikini photo shoots, they're doing stuff like that. They've toned it down a lot, but they're still doing it. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with one or two women playing up their sexuality the way, say, Fandango plays up his own. You know, or on the indies, Johnny Mundo, formerly John Morrison, you know, where it's something where the guys can show it off. I think there's nothing wrong with one or two women doing it, but you can't have them all doing it. You can't make it look like the division is nothing but the sexualized women just being there for titillation. And I think that when you're doing it like Ryback is suggesting, where that's like what you do after every move, and especially when it's an entire division doing it, it just brings the whole thing down, especially after they've come so far in building it up as something that is more than just titillation. And I think if you have any more than just one woman doing it as a heel tactic, it really just kind of devalues everything. And the thing is, I don't think he was talking about just one woman doing it as a heel tactic. It did not come across that way. I may not have chosen my words very well about how I addressed it, but yeah, screw you, Ryback. Speaking of bad tweets, Jim Cornette tweeted something stupid. Who would have thought? So he compared Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega to Hitler. Yeah, people have been complaining about what he has said about Kota Ibushi wrestling the doll in DDT and Kenny Omega wrestling the little girl and how it killed the business. And he refuses to back down because he's Jim Cornette. He'll never back down. And he finally said something to the effect of, Hitler may have been a great painter, but that still doesn't mean that, he's worth a shit. Basically being, well, Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi might be great wrestlers, but they did this. Implying that somehow wrestling a doll and wrestling a little child are, Hitler levels of, we're just going to write them off. So this is me stopping my defense of Jim Cornette. It used to be that I would argue that Jim Cornette knows that this, and this work in wrestling. And they do work. But the problem is that he will not acknowledge that this, and this work as well. So when he complains about this, and this, it's because he knows that this, and this work. And he just doesn't like when people do this, and this. I'm done defending him. This was over the line. He has not apologized as of when I'm recording this. And if he apologizes now, it is too little, too late. He has gone too far, and I'm done with Jim Cornette. Fuck you, Jim Cornette. We're about to get to our coverage of Battleground, and I was waiting for this main event because I've been saying that I'm waiting to see Jinder really have that big match that really proved that he could be in the position he's in, that showed that, all the critics have just been jumping the gun. I saw him wrestle AJ Styles this past weekend. They came to my town for a house show, and I saw Jinder Mahal wrestle AJ Styles, and it was an awful match. I am ready to say Jinder Mahal is a bad wrestler. I'm sorry. I still think that a lot of people were far too quick to jump on that. I think a lot of people didn't give him a fair shot because probably a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it probably had to do with racism. I think that the same people that hate Jinder because he was a jobber, just the other day, and now he's the champion, a lot of them are the same people that loved when Heath Slater went from a jobber to the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champ. And I think anybody that falls in that Venn diagram connection needs to take a look at why it was so different for Jinder. But I will say that after having watched him wrestle AJ Styles and trying to judge it as objectively as possible, he's not good. He wrestles a big man style where it's hit and power move, take control, let the other guy get a quick comeback, stop the comeback, take control, but he does it so slowly. It's just a move, rest. Move, rest. If you watch any other big man that wrestles that style, the two that come to mind immediately are Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin. They both wrestle that same style that Jinder's doing right now. They're a lot quicker about it. They might not be able to chain 8 moves together the way somebody else will, but that's not the style they're wrestling, but they can at least chain 3 or 4. They're not just throwing the guy to the floor and then standing on him and taunting while the guy has to look like he's dead because of one move. But Jinder's doing that, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work with somebody that's a main event talent. It might work with some jobber that they bring to build him up. But he's taking too much time, and he's making his opponents look too weak in how they have to sell for him. And he's not doing enough to play up the chicken shit heel that is the entire reason that they gave him the Singh brothers. They're supposed to be there to cover his weaknesses. They're doing what they can, but really all they're doing on the outside right now is cheerleading. And it helps, but it's not what they're there for. It's not why you give somebody two guys to cheat for you like that when they're only coming into play at the very end of the match. It's not working. And I'm really sorry. I wanted to be wowed by Jinder, but if AJ Styles can't get a great match out of you, there's not a lot there, and it was not a good match. But yeah, let's take a look at Battleground. We have, on the kickoff show, Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English. I gotta think that Dillinger's gonna win this. He hasn't been on SmackDown a lot. He wasn't even at the house show that I got to watch, but I think they're trying to do some kind of holding pattern for him, hoping that somewhere something opens up that they can slot him into, but I don't think they're actively working to give him any kind of push right now. But I think he's got a better chance of getting something than Aiden English does, so expect Aiden to lose on that one. At some point on the show, we're supposed to learn who has been attacking Breezango. I haven't a damn clue. I would have thought it'd be the Ascension because they're not doing anything. Would have thought maybe it'd be the Colognes because they're not doing anything. Doesn't seem to be either of them. There's really no tag team in NXT that's ready for the call-up. I don't think they're going to have the Authors of Pain come up. That's the only team that's really ready. And there's nobody in NXT ready to take the belts from them. So your guess is as good as mine, unless they bring back the Spirit Squad. Maybe the Headbangers. You know, something that doesn't make any sense but just comes from out of left field just because they needed somebody. So expect that to be how they go with it. We've got Mike Kanellis versus Sami Zayn. I do not expect Sami to win this, mainly because they're going to want to give Kanellis a big win in his first pay-per-view match. Expect it to be dirty. Expect Zayn to still look strong in the loss, but I expect Kanellis to get that W on his record. We've got AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens in the United States Championship rematch. There's a rumor that Owens is injured and he might be taking some time off. I do not think that they would have put the belt on AJ Styles at the house show if they were just going to take it away from him at the pay-per-view. That's the kind of thing you do when you don't really have a plan for him. And I think that they are going to be going towards something with him at SummerSlam. Hopefully this is their way to get Kevin Owens out of it, because this is his rematch now getting out of the way, instead of keeping this feud going through there. So I'm hoping AJ Styles wins this, hoping if Kevin Owens is injured, he gets healthy quick, and we can get him back into the mix sooner than later. Nakamura versus Corbin. It's hard to bet against Nakamura at this point, but with Corbin having the briefcase, I don't think he's going to take a loss. Not a clean loss, not right now. They're going to want to make him keep looking like a danger. I think he's going to win against Nakamura, and I think it's going to look a lot cleaner than most people would expect it to. You got Charlotte versus Becky versus Natalya versus Tamina versus Lana. This is a 5-way elimination match for the number one contendership. There's actually no reason not to have Carmella in this, because even though she has the briefcase, she should be able to become the number one contender without it, so that she can double up her chances. by any right. She actually should be strongly in contention for the #1 contendership because she won 2 ladder matches for the Money in the Bank briefcase. So expect her to get involved in some way, because otherwise she's not on the card, nor is Naomi. So they'll probably both be at ringside at some point. I would expect a heel to win this. I'm going to say Tamina wins because I think they have to have a heel going up against her, but I don't know where they're going to go with the story. It's weird. I think the big story is going to be with Becky and Charlotte. I think one of them is going to eliminate the other one in the match, and it's going to be seen as backstabbing by the one who gets eliminated, and it's going to start to sow a little dissension there. But I think in the end we're going to have one of the heels win. Natalya would probably be better off, but I think Tamina, it's just she hasn't had a good chance to shine lately, and I think that they are ready to put a little bit of spotlight on her. Then you got Cena versus Rusev in the flag match. Cena is probably going to be over on Raw for SummerSlam, so I think he has to win this so that there's no return match. But on the other hand, Rusev needs to look strong, especially if they are planning to put him into the main event, which it looked like they were going to do before this whole Jinder Mahal champion thing. So it's hard to call this one. How do you have this match and not have some kind of follow-up match at SummerSlam? Cena. I'm just going to say Cena. You got Usos versus New Day for the Tag Team Championship. I think the New Day win it. I think that there is a little bit more value in them as the champions, which is a shame because the Usos have been doing such a great job. It was a lot of fun watching them versus the New Day versus the Fashion Police at the house show. But it was also a match that was light on the Usos, mainly because they were trying to be the bad guys in their hometown. And it's hard to be the bad guys in your hometown, especially when you're the Usos. You're as loved as they are. But it was a fun match. I think that the New Day is going to come out on top. But I really don't know who's going to chase the belts after the Usos are out of the contention. The tag division is really weak on both sides. That's something I still wish they'd done differently when they did the brand split last year. Would have been nice to have all the women on one show and all the tag teams on the other. A little late for that now, though. Finally, we have the Punjabi prison match. First in however many years. Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. You heard my rant about Jinder Mahal, but I don't think he's going to lose to Randy Orton. I think he's probably going to lose to whoever his next challenger is. But this is going to be his way of ending the feud with Randy. Thank goodness. I'm ready for this to be over. But I have no idea who's next. Very curious what it's going to be. But Jinder wins this. He wins it dirty as hell, but he wins it. Thank you for checking this out again. I am sorry there was no episode last week, and I'm sorry that we went so long this week. But I appreciate you checking it out. I appreciate you staying with me. I love you, Trampions. You know what to do. Thank you so much. Cheers.